In this episode of the Military Mindset for Business podcast. If you've ever wanted to know how to grow an effective LinkedIn community, you're going to want to stick around for this. Edward Zia is a combat engineer sapper. He did 5 or 6 years in the army, then went over to the cops and then had a brilliant marketing career. And he's built a community with over 100,000 followers, which creates no end of organic leads for his business. But one of the really interesting things about Edward, he's got the guts to have an opinion. So we talk about LinkedIn, we talk about Trump, we talk about politics. So stay tuned for this episode of the Military Mindset for Business show. Hello, everybody. My name's Pete Liston, and this is the Military Mindset for Business show. Today, I'm chatting with Edward Zia. G'day, Edward.
Oh, great to be here, Pete. And I got to say, I love your background. That's just incredible. So patriotic, and what an amazing military history you must have had.
Oh, mate, it is a bit self-gratuitous. Like, I'm not really into the personal military shrines, that a lot of us seem to set up. Or having said that, am I? Maybe maybe I need to self-reflect there a little bit. But this is the way I found out about you. So first of all, I have a little habit of probably 10 minutes a day just trawling LinkedIn for veteran business. And then I came across you just trawling veteran, and it did one of the things that pinged me as a bit of surprise was like you've got 105 odd thousand followers, and as my I was like, oh, what's this guy doing? That's a little bit different. Then I Googled you, and I think the actual words that came up on Google were internet personality. And then I was like, whoa, that's...
and that was Google. That was Google. That's not me. Google did that. That's Google talking about me. I never said that. So blame Google, not me.
But then I was just like, well, what's this guy about? And then that's what led me to reach out and say g'day. And it's a pleasure to have you come along and talk about your journey from the military to business. So I'd love to understand, where did you grow up?
I'm from Melbourne originally, so grew up in quite a few different places in Melbourne back in the day. I spent some time in the foster system, so I went to a lot of different places, but a lot of it was in the southeastern side of Melbourne. I was very lucky to spend most of my time growing up.
And you joined Army early, combat engineer?
Yeah, so what happened was I joined when I was 18, and I sort of got in when I was 19, just intakes and that. And I was very lucky to start as an Army combat engineer back in the day. And so I did my very, very basic training. Then they shipped me off to start my engineer training, and it was an incredible life-changing journey.
Like, why? What at that time, as an 18-year-old fella, makes you want to go down that pathway?
Well, what was interesting about it, and this is not the right reason to join the Army, but a very common reason. So what happened was I had a few rough years in the foster system, and my life wasn't going too well. So I was about 15, 16, no money, no nothing, life going nowhere. And I was sitting in high school, and he almost looked like a bit like Henry Cavill, Superman, right? Yep. This amazing army recruiter came out. He was like a mesh between Chris Hemsworth and Henry Cavill. He was like good looking, handsome, had all the lines, had beautiful hair. And he came out to the school and did this big plug for the army. And the line that got us, I was with one of my friends who was also a foster kid. And this is the line that got us. He turned around and he says, let's say your life hasn't worked out. You can sign up to the Army, start again, forget about everything that happened to you, and we'll pay all for your rent and food. I remember we said, hey, can we go now? And everyone laughed at us. So it was really I really fell for the Army recruiter shtick, like a chance to, again, life wasn't working out, had no money. It was a great chance to start again.
So what was it like, Kapuka at 18, 19?
No, so I had an interesting entry. So I originally actually long story short, I actually went in via the reserves, then transferred to full-time Army. It was like there was a bit of weird timing of the pathway. So I actually spent 16 days in Puckapunyal, right, for basic training, which wasn't that long. But then they shipped me off into my engineer training that took months and months and months.
So that's straight up to, is it Moorebank, Holsworthy, up that way?
Yeah, it was a mixture of Wangaratta and then Holsworthy, right? It's funny you say. A lot of Wangaratta. I think the base doesn't exist anymore, but then I was shifted off to Holsworthy to do the more. So Wangaratta was more the basics of engineer training and that sort of thing. And Holsworthy was like the search, seizure, demolitions, that type of thing.
And what's it like? 19-year-old boy, I've got to say, combat engineers must be one of the funnest jobs in Army as a young guy or girl. Like literally getting to blow stuff up as part of your job.
Oh, it was really good. I definitely made the right. I was either, in hindsight, I would have either been Army engineer or medic. They were the sort of two streams that interested me. So either Army engineer or medic, but I was so glad to go for Army engineer. It was definitely the right job for me.
So what years are we looking at here? The mid-1990s, are we?
I think it was, oh God. Now I am 47 soon, and I was 19, 18. So that was 28 years ago. Oh my God. No, it's pre-2000.
Okay, cool. Because I'm nearly 50, so I just got to use only 3 fingers here to work the maths out. So we're talking just at the end of, hashtag the Great Peace, or whatever it was. Were you out before Timor?
Yeah, yes. So, so I was in during Timor, but I never got to deploy to do Timor. I did more domestic work. So I was never went overseas. I did full domestic. So from memory, no, I was in during Timor from memory. I was in during Timor. There you go. But I never went though. Never went.
Mate, what was it that was finally the time to transition out?
Oh, I got injured in a medical discharge. So, yeah. So honourable, all honourable, legit. I didn't beat any officers or anything. So got injured on the job, and got injured in when I was working with the AFP, and that was the end of. It was almost the end of my life, but that was the end of my career. So I got a medical discharge, and I was quite sick for a while, but really good. So even though I had a rough injury and a medical discharge, I really fell on my feet. Got a great payout from the government, which helped me with uni, and got a really good job for a military supplier. So I really fell on my feet, which was great.
A lot done at a young age. So even for me, I didn't even join the Army till I was 30. So I'm like one of the outliers that was, I had a few, I really wanted to join when I was 18, but I had a few, how can I say it? Conflicts of identity at that time in terms of what I should do. And then I finally got in, but I was always amazed at these, young men and women that get in at that age, but you can get in and get out and start a fresh life with that under your belt. So, you're now out of the Army at 24-ish with just a wealth of experience behind you.
Yeah, exactly. I was actually going to go career. So at the actual time, I was working with the AFP as an acting special constable. I was actually not far from going fully fledged constable, as in fully transferring across. So that was actually me at the time. And there you go.
Can you just unpack a little bit about that transition between Army and Coppers?
Yeah, totally. So what happens? I'll back up a little bit, right? And I'll give some context as well. So I come from an Arab Islamic background, right? I converted to Christianity later, but so I joined the Army as a Muslim. Now, what was interesting, especially back in the time, and I was very nervous when I joined the Army because they said to me, "What's your religious affiliation?" They said, "So my name is Edward Ahmed Ali Muhammad Zia." And I said, "So Ed, where are you from?" I said, "Look, I'm born in Australia, but I come from a Islamic Arabic background." I was very nervous. Yep. Now, at the time when I went for my Army interview, there was this guy with 3 pips on his shoulders and a red beret interviewing me, asking me all these questions about my background. Obviously, it's a military police captain. I found out later on. And he was asking me all these questions about my background. And I was really nervous because I thought I wasn't going to get into the Army. Far from it, they were actually profiling me. So what the Army does to this very day, especially for officers, what the Army does to this day, let's say you're Chinese or you're Indonesian or you're an Arab that speaks Arabic. If they know you're from a particular ethnicity, they'll profile you and put you in the system, and then task forces may come up where they need you. So, for example, to this day, the government is, be it police or military, the police and military to this day is desperate for Arab Muslims joining the forces because we're the people that go in and do surveillance, policing, or if it's more traditional warfare, if you speak Arabic and you go to an Arabic-speaking country, it's perfect. So it was the ethnic background was very lucky to get me seconded, and and quite often to this day, I'm very sure. Army engineers and the AFP have always worked together for years because, again, explosives, drugs, and search and seizure is part of what the AFP does. So you have that sort of natural compatibility there.
Just on being a young Muslim in the army at the time, never everything just rolled on well, no trouble, no sort of flack, just same.
Yeah, no problem. Everyone was wonderful. So the thing is, and that's why, and I don't mean to get political, but I will. But that's why whenever I hear, the thing is, be it the AFP or the Australian Army, it was fantastic. If anything, it was quite funny because what would happen is, whenever we went on training exercise, I'd always be the bad guy. And I'd always I'd always wear like the tea towel on my head and the kafif. I always play the bad guy, and I would say funny shit like "Death to America" and "Allah Akbar." I would say all this funny shit, and during actual exercises, people would be laughing their heads off at me. There we go. So I would just say funny crap like that just to incense me. It was quite good. I miss those days, actually. Was
there actually a separation from the army and an induction into the police, or an actual transfer, or was it sort of more like a shared hat?
Oh, so what happened was because of the nature of the work that I was doing, it was quite a big decision. It's like so I spoke to commanding officer, great guy. I'm actually connected to on LinkedIn. Andrew, great guy, Andrew Goodsall. So what happened was, so the actual thing was quite official. So, it all happened. I actually went to Canberra to do my sort of, so the way it works is depending on what you're doing in a task force, you might do particular training. So let's say someone from the AFP has to join the Navy to go somewhere. They'll do Navy induction, right? Yep. Let's say someone who's an accountant that works for Centrelink goes into a task force in the Air Force to do the numbers. So task forces in Australia will draw from all functions of government, be it public servants or military, and they'll put you in the right induction based on basically the danger of the work or what you're doing.
Yeah.
And because I was doing a lot of, because I was doing a lot of undercover narcotic work, I did sort of like their basic sort of field training.
Mm-hmm. And I guess at that time, pre-Timor, the federal police would have probably been doing a lot more active, stuff than the army at that time.
Oh, the thing is they changed it. I want to say something that a lot of people may not like, but it's true. The AFP today, as time passes, the AFP, the Australian Federal Police, ASIO, Air Force, Navy, they're more and more one unit these days. So back in the day, there were very different divisions. Today, well, quite often, a lot of them are based in the same building. The AFP, ASIO, the generals in Canberra all have meetings together. So as time has passed, even though you have Army, Air Force, Navy, whatever, right? AFP, all them, ASIO, they're pretty much one, as weird as it sounds, in a way, they're kind of one organisation with different branches. That's the way I saw it, and it's actually more like that today. They work a lot more closer than you think. I mean this more at the higher levels.
Mate, so what was it that, apart from the medical discharge, let's just jump into the next chapter of your life. There's a definite switch now into marketing, networking, communities, and business. Actually, you mentioned you did work for a defence company in between there, was it?
Yeah, so I was really lucky. So I got injured, and so I got injured, and pretty much I was quite sick for a while. I couldn't really continue, but the government was fantastic. So they paid for me for my uni as part of my sort of return to civilization. But I was very, very lucky to get a job for, it was called Henkel. It's a massive German chemical company, Henkel to this day. But I got a job in their surface technologies division, dealing with all the military clients, so Air Force, Army. Not Navy, that was a different division, but Air Force, Army, and also a lot of different packaging companies, and also ADF suppliers as well. So I worked with quite a few ADF suppliers at the time as well. So best job. So I really, really fell on my feet, and thanks for the government too. A lot of veterans will rightfully criticise the government for lack of support as a veteran, and the government was actually really good to me. So I had a really good sort of run straight after my, coming home and recovering from my injuries and that.
Man, I got to second that there. Like, I got to say that, and we're talking back a bit about first responders, and what we're here for with veteran business community, that community is probably the most important term around why we exist. And I talk to, cops and ambos and fireys all the time. And I just think that, DVA is not perfect and the government's not perfect, but we are blessed to have this structure to look after us and to, they don't get it right, but, it is, I'm with you. I just personally think that we are very lucky, and sometimes it's hard to look the gift horse in the mouth kind of thing.
Yeah, and another point is as well, and again, not all veterans agree with me, but this is a viewpoint I've always held, is whether I see policing and military as really the same thing. So I have a very holistic view of the armed forces. So whether you're a cook on a submarine, or whether you're a cop working the streets, or whether you're, you're an RSM with a sword yelling at people, to me, we're all part of the Defence Forces in some various capacities. So I have a very holistic view of all services.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. So wrapping up at Henkel, where's this inclination for marketing? Now, if there's one thing that anyone's listening to this right now, you have a personality that just bursts, and it's not just in your, face-to-face connection here, but there's just something in there that I feel like can't be restrained. Or where was the pathway into this life of connection and community and networking and where you are now?
A lot of it was in the foster system, actually. So when I was in the foster system, that's where I really learnt the gift of the gab. And when I started off in the foster system, I was told very early on by a really good Salvation Army officer. My name used to be Eddie back in those days, so it's Ed now, but Eddie back in the days. They said, "Look, Eddie, I like you. For you to survive in the system, you're going to have to make a lot of really good friends, and you got to be really charming." That's exactly what this guy told me, right? And
at what age were you?
I was about 10 years old, about 10.
10 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was told that straight up from the start. Ed, you got to be, Eddie, I should say, get the context right. Eddie, you have to be very charming, and you got to make a lot of friends and build relationships. And what was interesting about it was that I actually had a really good experience in the foster system because of that advice, because whenever I was in a community house or a halfway house, I'd always build relationships and make friends of everyone. So if there was ever a shortage of beds, I'd always be on the top tier.
Yeah. Is this just a natural? I get that this is something that taught you, but surely there's a nature versus nurture here as well. Like, for a 10-year-old, when did you go into the foster system?
Oh, it's about 10 years old, So sort of family breakdown, everything sort of fell apart. And so I found myself into the system. And and pretty much in my induction, you would say, I had a Salvation Army officer sit me down and tell me how things work.
Man.
And it was very interesting.
I just got to say, like, for me, it always gobsmacks me, I guess, how sheltered or naive I was, growing up in. But, like as a 10-year-old to be looking half glass full at this opportunity and thinking, hey, this is, we're just going to crack on and do our best here, man. I just think that's.
I think it's funny you say that, because I think it's the malleability of a young mind. Because what was interesting is before that, I had a very normal life. I was like in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne, had kids parties. I even had a Commodore 64, right, which is this whole old gaming system, right? And it was just so sad story. She's alive today, so good ending. So. Mom she's fine today, so no depression. My mom got terminal cancer, and then the dad left, everything fell apart. She was unconscious, really messy situation. And what was interesting is that when I went into the foster system, to me, it wasn't, what was funny, maybe it's a young thing, I was never that shocked. To me, it was just a continuation of life. And I think it's because I think when you're older, it would be more shocking. When you're younger, it's easier to sort of carry on with that.
Oh, I just love the spirit.
Yeah.
And I get it that you're sort of giving credit for the salvo officer and taking that great advice, but at the same time, mate, I just can't help but think there is a natural part of you that makes this happen.
And ultimately, just jumping in there, and again, you're a military guy, so you'll appreciate this. And bring the military into it. The thing, and you would know this, right? In the military, policing, whatever, right? if you don't know how to talk to people, you won't get fed that day, or you'll get beaten up,
Yeah.
right? So in the military, if you don't know how to, or the policing, whatever, right? Same thing. If you don't know how to talk to people, you won't get dinner, or you're going to wind up insulting someone and getting beaten up or thrown in the brig, or I don't know, not brig, but day prison or whatever it's called, right? So the thing is that I learned early on, especially in the military, it's all about building really good and not getting into fights, staying out of fights. Building relationships is very important.
Excellent.
So I always walked away from fights. I never got into fights, which was really good news. Yeah, I always stayed out of fights and that sort of thing.
Mate, I've got to admit that I don't think I've been in a proper fight my whole life, nearly. I've just been one of those. Yeah, look, apart from like I did some boxing for a little while, but I just never been I've been hit a few times by some people, which is ultimately my fault for gobbing off, but I don't know whether there's a safety mechanism or not. Just right, mate.
Yeah.
What's that? Sorry.
What was funny is before I joined the army, I had my nose broken a few times. Way before I joined the army. So there we go.
Yeah, straight into it.
Yeah, to me, the army in a way was just an extension of my previous life. It wasn't actually that different to my previous experience. It was just a normal continuation for me.
Mate, where did the marketing part of your life come in?
Yeah. So what happened was when I got the job with Henkel, great company, by the way, loved it. And the problem that I had was, and the company was great, and so was the government. So what happened was when I got the job, it was an account management sort of technical job.
Yep.
And even though I was good at talking to people, I knew nothing about sales and marketing. And what the company, so the government paid for my uni at Monash. So I was at Monash already doing marketing. And then my company then helped out as well. So I was actually doing, as a mature age student, I actually did my marketing through Monash University in Melbourne. And they were fantastic and I was more learning that just so I could do the job because again, so account management is a mixture of relationship building as well as sales and marketing.
I'd like to pick at marketing a little bit later, because I always think of marketing as being the greatest of dark arts when it comes into business.
Absolutely. Sales and marketing is an absolute dark art. I couldn't agree with you more.
But that led you into a corporate career in marketing at both Banjos and then down at the casino in Victoria. Oh, sorry, not Victoria, in Tasmania.
Tasmania.
Yep. Marketing. Now, one of the things that, let's just talk about what small business owners go through a minute. You go to a marketing agency and we've got the classic confliction of what's right for the marketing agency versus what's right for the business.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely.
Just pretty standard. You come to me, this is what I want. I had a moment about a couple of months ago when I was talking to another veteran business owner, and he was actually in tears on the phone, like I'm just about to lose my house, and sold, and I was like, well, he just spent $30,000 on a marketing campaign for local radio for a startup business, right?
Yeah.
I find that marketing, when we go speak to a marketing agency, the first inclination an agency will have is, how can I hook you onto ad spend? How can I hook you onto something that is going to create MRO, that enduring revenue for the agency? Where's your thoughts on marketing fundamentals 101? What should a business owner be looking at as the first?
I'll give you the easy answer, right? And I'll tell you what I did because I won't bore you with my sob stories. I'm not here for that. But long story short, I when this is relevant to my marketing journey, I spent a few very successful years in Australian corporate, but my PTSD caught up with me from my younger years. And when I was 30, I was very sick, so I had trouble working and basically lost everything. And so what happened was I moved to Sydney to start my life again, right? Living in my car, as you do as a homeless veteran. Now, what's interesting about it is I had no money. And so I had to build my business with no money. And the biggest thing I realized was this is before LinkedIn and Instagram. It was mostly Facebook back in those days. This is when Facebook was still taking off. I just started posting on Facebook all the time, right? I started posting on Facebook because what's interesting is that, and sorry to this, this poor veteran friend of yours who got ripped off by the radio station. I don't like radio stations that much. Is they're good, but you got to be ready for it. The thing is, right, to this day, and I'll talk then and now, it is free to post on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Insta. It's free.
Yeah.
It's free. Just post every day on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Insta. It's free. Just do that. Right. And so in my case, of course, I do more B2B, I'm a LinkedIn guy. All my clients are on LinkedIn. So I post all the time on LinkedIn, and I use a bit of Facebook and Instagram as well.
Look, I can't agree with you more. One of the things that I really feel that any small business owner can do when they're kicking off is, it's not a new term. I just call it relationship marketing versus paid marketing. Is what can you do to present yourself as a brand, present yourself for who you are, and just start building relationships with people rather than just looking for the sugar hit of inbound from ad spend.
Yeah, it's funny you say this. I berate people all the time, right? I only berate people after they insult me. So if someone insults me, my nice guy act disappears very quickly, and I move into, dick AFP officer mode very quickly, right? Very quickly. Now, what's interesting is, I had this old client, not a bad guy, but a bit annoying. But it was only about a few days ago. He messaged me over LinkedIn saying, "Hey Ed, I've got this new service, and I want your help in promoting it." And I said, "Yeah, sure, absolutely. Here's our program and that sort of thing." And then the person said, "Oh, I want sales right away." And I said, and I remember this. I had trouble with this client. He was a very short term. He's a bit of an idiot, right? And I said to him straight up, saying, "Look, we're not about that. If you're after a short-term thing, go do some paid ads. We're about building brands and relationships." And he then got a bit offended, rightfully so, saying, "Oh, Ed, but I'm about real brand and relationships." I said, "Yeah, but you want sales tomorrow, don't you?" "Yeah, I do." And I said, "Well, you're not about brand and relationships." And I said, "Look, we're not for you. You should go do some paid ads or something." Right? So I basically told the guy to beat it, right? Because he was speaking out of both sides of his mouth. But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing is that the downside of what I'm saying, the darker side of what I'm saying is that it takes time to get going. Like building relationships and building a personal brand takes a long time to get going. It can take, for a lot of our clients, it might be 3 or 6 months and still they get sales coming in, right? But here's the but though, it's free. Posting on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Insta is cash free. You're not spending $2,000 a month or whatever to a radio station or an ad agency. And that's a big thing that I say to, especially to veteran business owners. Especially if you're doing B2B. I'm more of a B2B guy. Start posting on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Insta. It's free and it gets your brand out there.
Okay. My analogy to that, and paid ads can be brilliant for the right business at the right time in the right place. I'm not discounting it.
Now, just jumping in there, I'm all for paid ads once your organic is going and you've got the budget to afford it. I'm all for paid ads, but the problem is the issue is not paid ads, is people do it at the wrong time and send themselves broke. That's the issue.
I love it. And what's really I'm enjoying about this little chat at the moment is as people go to marketing agencies and, if they go to look for support, just have a few of these, little bells or whistles, in your ear. If they're just pushing us straight to paid ad, it's probably because they're looking for enduring management spend.
Yeah, just on that actually. So I did my LinkedIn. So I got certified as a LinkedIn trainee consultant about 4 or 5 years ago, 3, 4 years ago, 4 years ago, right? Something like that. And when I was doing the training to become a LinkedIn certified consultant, love LinkedIn by the way. One of the first things they say in their training. So I'm also LinkedIn advertising certified. So I'm certified to teach people how to do LinkedIn paid ads. Basically, the first slide of the PowerPoint is never ever recommend paid ads to a client unless their strategy is right and they've already got their organic marketing working. Microsoft and LinkedIn tell you that straight up off the bat, straight up. Now, a lot of agencies don't do it. A lot of agencies say, "Oh, let's do some paid ads." No. Yeah. What Microsoft says is, and I've said this for years, is that no, make sure your strategy is right, make sure your product's right. Just start off with organic marketing. And when you can afford $2,000 a month, then you do the paid ads and screw around with all that stuff. That's great. That's how you're meant to do it.
Yeah, it's the icing, not the cake. What I use this analogy, several times about the difference between paid and organic or paid and relationship. Paid ads sometimes, and again, it sounds like I'm ragging on paid, but it's the right time, right place. But if you're in a cold cabin in the winter, there's snow all around, and you've got an electric heater that's just blasting on, that's like paid ads. It's great when it's on. The room will warm up. It's very expensive. But the problem is, if you turn it off and you open the door, there's nothing left.
You're dead.
I look at relationship or organic marketing being like, a log fire in that cabin. even if you turn it off, there is still enduring heat. It's still giving you more and more and more for a long time after, you've actually turned it off.
Yeah. Well said. Perfect analogy.
We'll come into the whole LinkedIn thing later, but I'll post a question for later because I'm actually super interested in paid LinkedIn ads, to be honest. But I want to ask and maybe debunk a few mysteries about it. So you've gone now into corporate marketing, got now a definitive fundamental, skill set or experiences. When do you switch? What makes you switch now into this, networking? We're looking, as I on your LinkedIn, about 2010 is where you make a switch.
Yep. Yeah. So what happened was, is that in the army, government, got injured, and what happened to me was, even though I had a few good years in corporate Australia, I started getting really sick from PTSD. I've always had a bit of PTSD, but I started getting really bad when I was about 29, 30. And I was getting the shakes and everything. I was quite sick at the time. And I just couldn't work. I had a really good marketing contract. And even though I did a really good job of the marketing contract, I was too sick to work after that. And one of the problems I had was, it's not the military, so it's more Centrelink's fault. I couldn't get any money from Centrelink because I earned so much money previously, even though I burned through it, I couldn't get any money from the government, so I had nothing, right? And yeah, so for me, what happened was, when I came to Sydney to start my life again, I realized very early on, it was more Facebook in those days. I need to post on Facebook all the time, but I realized there's all these networking events. There was heaps of networking events. So I realized networking events were a great place for me to go to meet people, to build my ideas, get clients, and that sort of thing. And I was also doing a coach certification at the time. So I was launching myself as a marketing coach at the time too. So I used a lot of networking and Facebook originally to build myself.
When you did these networking events, did you start off with the same kind of rookie mistake of going to networking events thinking you're going to sell something? Or did you have a business at the time, or were you at just sort of like, this is what I wanted to do, so I'm going to start networking to create my business in the future?
More that. I would just say to people, hey, look, I've worked in marketing for years. I'm actually training to be a marketing coach. I'm just here to meet people and make new friends and build some ideas. And very quickly, I started getting clients from doing that. Like, people would say, hey, Ed, how's your marketing coaching work? Oh, sure. And I started just getting clients and clients. And it wasn't long before what was funny, this is the funny bit of it. It wasn't long before I was making about $5,000 a month out of my business, which meant, you're not going to live in the top part of town, but $5,000 a month. On the cheap, you can live your life full time. Okay. So you can survive on the cheap. You can survive on $5,000 a month, no problem.
I got to admit, when I first joined the army, and it wasn't that long ago, it was about 2005. I think I was a farmer before I joined the army, so I was just doing general laboring work. And for many people who went on to recruit wages, it was actually like a pay cut. But for me, I was like, mate, this is so much money. It was ridiculous. One of the things I just want to pick up.
Sure.
First of all, I'm just going to acknowledge something that you said. That you did live homeless for a little while, and the fact that you just gloss over these things is just part of it. I think your glass half full, just crack on nature. The other thing you also mentioned not being able to work because of just how you're feeling and what you were going through at the time. Yes. And this is one of my most adamant parts of enterprise or small business for veterans. On one side of it, I will only put veterans in business as a positive positioning statement, right? Yeah. What I mean by that is the traits that you earned because you served, character and courage and hard work and resilience and all of that, they make great business owners.
They do. And politicians. And politicians. You either wind up a senator in business or a member of parliament. That's where you tend to end up as a veteran.
That's where we roll.
Well, JD Vance was a Marine corporal. There you go.
Was he?
A Marine corporal.
I love to hear that. So a corporal, ends up becoming Now, vice president, brilliant.
The irony is that he was a corporal who became. I love JD Vance as the vice president of America. He was a Marine corporal, and then I think he got injured and he got out. And similar to Australia, in America they have what's called, I think, the GI Bill, and basically what it means is that if you have an honourable discharge, same in Australia, if you have an honourable discharge and you get out or you get injured, they pay for your uni education. They do that in Australia and America and the UK. And he went for that and became a lawyer, I think, and then he built it, and then he made all this money. Then he became a senator. But the joke is that he's a Marine corporal telling generals what to do. That's the kind of humor of it. I like that humor. It's quite cool.
Yeah, I definitely love it. The piece about, let's just call it your own pace in your own place. Okay, so again, I've always want to keep veteran-owned businesses and as a quality positioning statement. However, now I don't want to sort of be like, oh, throw veterans a bone because, you know, you need to help their businesses because they've all got PTSD and suicide. You know, like it's what I want to share though is that because of your service, if there's challenges, maybe self-employment or enterprise or your own business at your own pace in your own place could be an option for you rather than just being on, you know, defense welfare, you know, whether it be pension or, you know, your incapacity payments.
Well, tell you, I used to have the shakes really badly from PTSD, right? On my left-hand side, right? I used to have the shakes very badly. And what I would do is it would be so bad, sometimes I would sit on my hand so people wouldn't notice, right? Yeah. Or I'd have my hand in my pocket all the time just to control the shakes. And the thing is that what would happen back in the day is when I started networking, I still had the shakes quite a bit. But what I could do is sometimes if I just had a cup of tea or relax, the shakes would disappear for an hour or two so I could do an event. And so another way I could act human for a while, then disappear when my symptoms return. So, yeah.
Oh, mate. And look, if I make a bit of a confession myself is I turned up at I'd only met you for the first time last Friday.
Yeah, Friday. Good meeting you.
Last Friday, literally in Sydney. I actually turned up and when I saw a whole crowd of new people there, and there was about 50, 60 people there, I actually got a burst of anxiousness and had to bail. So I don't know, but like it's just a bit of a confession there. But that aside,
just on that, and I commend you, is the fact is you turned up. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like the fact is that you turned up, and bravo to you. Who cares how anxious you were? You showed up, and showing up is 80% of success in my book. There you go.
Well, the seal's broken, so I'll be there next time. But the thing about this self-employment piece, you know, like is if you are going through some stuff and the regular workforce isn't right for you.
Yeah.
What I'm really excited about today is
can I just react to something else? Can I interrupt? Can I just react to something else?
Please.
Now, I'm going to sound like an old guy here, right? Here's the other point as well, right? And this doesn't just go for veterans. The workforce today is not as good as what it used to be, right? And I'll give you an example. When I worked for Henkel, I was getting paid $50,000 a year plus super plus a car, right? Today, when you start working sales, you get about the same, right? So what I mean is that the relative earning potential you got back in the day was way better than it is today. So I say to anyone today, and I say this a tragedy, and I say this with full respect to Generation Z and all that kind of sucks. The workforce today it sucks way more than the workforce 20, 30 years ago, right?
But and you also mentioned a bit before that you were able to pull off $5,000 a month in your own little coaching business, which was a good foundation. You know, there's 60 a year. That's and that's your building.
Yeah. So on $5,000, if it's just you on your own, you can live on. You're not hanging out at swanky hotels drinking Dom Perignon, but you can get by on $5,000 a month when you're starting out, no problem.
Yeah. I love it, mate. This is a lot. This kind of conversations, I believe, the best thing that we can do. You know, I'll go back. What we are trying to do within the veteran business community is just be sort of a lighthouse for other veterans in terms of quite simple. You see it, you can be it. One of the things that when I first spoke to you on the phone is the use of the term veteran as a personal brand. You were like, you've got to put it on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah, you're crazy not to. Yeah. I would say if you don't put veteran on your LinkedIn profile, you need a psych evaluation immediately.
Another one.
There you go.
Mate,
You don't have to.
Now
Crazy.
now that I've segued myself into LinkedIn, mate, how did you get? Yeah, like I've been plugging away, and I got a couple of thousand. Man, how do you get to 100,000 plus people watching your stuff?
Yeah, it's okay. So several reactions there. It's all about any platform. This goes for LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Insta, whatever, right? You need to post really out there edgy content all the time that builds your audience. So my question for anyone watch, if someone says to me, hey, Ed, I want to get tens of thousands of followers and be a big brand, awesome. You got to post heaps of edgy personal content. And you got to post all the time. And I got into LinkedIn quite early, and I post a lot of edgy personal content. I really blew up globally, which I'm very happy about. So what's interesting is that even though I've only got 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, they're all high quality people. It's like having 100,000 followers on LinkedIn is like having 1 million on Facebook. In fact, I'll say this as well. If you said to me, Ed, do you want 100,000 followers on LinkedIn or 1 million on Facebook? I'll take the 100,000 on LinkedIn any day. So 100, I'll back up a bit. 5,000 followers on LinkedIn is like more than 50,000 followers on Facebook in terms of the quality of people. So the numbers can be very confusing. You have a follower on YouTube, a follower on LinkedIn, but on LinkedIn, they're all people with money and more power and influence.
Mate, you mentioned edgy personal content. Is this personal opinion, or is it business content, or is it personal brand?
Yeah, okay. So you have what's called your personal brand, right? Which is basically the sandbox of what you stand for and don't stand for, right?
Yep.
And so you have your business and your personal brand, which overlap. They're technically different, but for our discussion's sake, from a B2B point of view, they're very much in a small business, the personal brand and the business brand are usually one and the same, right? If they're distinct, there's definitely a huge overlap. Now, when you have that personal brand, right, the idea is you got to know what your business is, and you got to know what your brand value is for. So, for example, right, albeit the Liberal Party sucks right now, I'm a member of the Liberal Party. I like Pauline Hanson. I like One Nation. I'm more of a right winger. I love Donald Trump. Right, that's where I sit politically. Right. Now, the thing is, even though the Liberal Party in Australia sucks right now and will probably lose elections for the next 100 years, which they do, right? At the end of the day, I'm a right-wing Liberal / One Nation supporter, and I actually post a lot about. I post a lot about right-wing Liberal in Australia, and I post a lot of Pauline Hanson. I post a lot of right-wing conservative content because that's who I am. Now, I don't care if people don't like it because my audience leans to the right. So what I mean is my audience leans to the right as that I do. So I know my audience, I know what they like, and I want to give them the content they love to make them feel good because I love my audience. They're amazing.
It's funny with personal brand too. I was chatting to somebody, a marketing branding expert, because I was a bit confused on where I was, because at the time, this is about 18 months ago, I was running an offshoring agency. So offshore talent, we got a few hundred staff in the Philippines, but I've also got my veteran business hat on. But then what I truly love is going on retreats and traveling. And I said to this lady, like, do I need 3 personal brands? One to fulfill. And she's just like, no, you got it all wrong. Your personal brand is just you. So you just share anything that you care about.
Totally. It's all you. It's all you. I'll use a very good example. And this is just Richard Branson. So whether you fly, Richard Branson is the same character across all his products, be it Virgin Active, Virgin Airlines, Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Australia, Virgin Credit Card, Virgin Insurance, Virgin Trains, right? Virgin, music, right? Whatever it's called these days, Virgin Interactive. So what it is that your personal brand is very, very important, right? Regardless of what you do. Now, talking small business owners, personal brands are amazing. Because at the end of the day, right, and this is what I say to people all the time, this is a very LinkedIn consultant thing to say. Whether you're a solicitor or an accountant, you're running a brick and mortar business, whether you're a wedding planner, whether you're a PT or something, right? Whatever. People are hiring you. Call your business whatever you want. People are hiring you, right? Call your business whatever you want. They're hiring you. So whether you have a personal brand and also a business brand, they're either the same thing or there's a huge amount of overlap between them both.
Yeah, I love this. This is so important because again, you mentioned it. We are one of many in the competitive space.
Totally.
What makes you stand out? And this is again coming back to the one thing we have an advantage of being a veteran is you can have that as one of your personal brand bricks, and that does describe you in a certain way, and has some assumptions around your character, service, commitment, and the kind of thing. So I think
it's
really
a seal
important.
of approval. A veteran's a seal of approval because if you're, provided you're discharged honourably, right, assuming honourable discharge, right, but a veteran, right, a proud veteran, it's like saying you're a cop, right? It's like saying you're a JP, like saying you're a cop.
Yeah.
When you say you're a veteran, it makes you look good, but there's also a lot of responsibility attached to that as well. So, for example, anytime a veteran gets arrested or does something stupid, it puts a black marking into your name and my name.
Yeah.
Right.
Amen. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why, because a lot of veterans actually don't like me a lot, and I don't like them either. Right. For two reasons. Number one is that I don't blame the government for my predicament. A lot there's you would notice in the veteran community, a good chunk of them are like, I hate the government. The government did this to me, and Ed, you like the government, so screw you, Ed. And by the way, I don't like Labor, but you know what I'm saying, right? So a lot of veterans don't like me for that reason. The second reason why a lot of veterans don't like me, and I'm totally cool with this, is that I call out our own community. A lot of veterans don't take personal responsibility. They just like blaming everyone around them, right? And now, speaking to the veterans, that they wouldn't watch this podcast, speaking to the veterans like you and the people watching, is I love veterans who take their title of veteran seriously and act with responsibility. Because anytime a veteran does something dumb, it makes you and I look bad.
And this is where I think, unfortunately, the last probably 10 years, we've been the greatest contributor to our own poor narrative around around what we can do. And this is why I think it's so important to watch and see people like yourself who have like, I did my 6-7 years as a digger, medical discharge, end up being homeless, but you know what? It's not my defining story. Now I can, move on and achieve whatever level of success in life is there for me, mate.
Well, again, the VP is a corporal. There you go. Yeah. VP was a corporal. To me, because again, I am a Trump supporter, obviously, but when I was getting really into the Trump election, I actually wanted JD Vance to win because just having the idea of an NCO corporal being the vice president made me very happy.
Mate,
he wasn't an officer. He wasn't an officer. If he was an officer, I wouldn't be as thrilled. But the fact he was not an officer as VP made me very happy.
Yeah, I got to admit, I ended up going into the officer stream, but I think I was misplaced on selection because as a farmer who joined the army in a moment of madness. No. Anyway,
you've been a great officer. You have that gentlemanly style about you. I think you were great as an officer. I actually couldn't. I couldn't become an officer. I had a lot of problems with too many years of foster system. I had a bit of a problem of literacy, so I couldn't get an officer.
Yeah, no. It's interesting though, the pathways that I always talk about, these sliding doors moments. Just life just pops in and life just pops out, and then at any moment we just talk on a different pathway. Tell us about your business. I should have got to this way earlier. Tell us about your business and what you do.
Yeah, so my wife and I, Lassie, so we're LinkedIn certified consultants. So we teach LinkedIn and we run a business community. So we help teach people LinkedIn. We help people take off on LinkedIn, and we also promote them through our high value business community. And I run a lot of networking Zooms and I run a lot of events. And the way that we work is we make our money through LinkedIn, the coaching, and we run all the networking for free. So we run free networking Zooms and free face-to-face meetups. Again, our business pays for that. So yeah, it's really good. And bringing the veteran side into it is, being a veteran myself, we love veterans. We love all sorts of people, but in particular, we love veterans. We have a lot of clients who are ex-military and ex-policing, right, which is fantastic. And ex-nursing too, actually, bringing them into it as characters.
If one of the things I could admit, I still have a personal challenge, and it's about it. Is some of the I use this term regularly. Like I've got several successful businesses, and that's great, and it's all that kind of stuff. However,
you're a very successful guy. Good for you.
But I do have a challenge with this worthiness kind of thing. Is does my voice matter? When you're talking about just getting it out there and posting stuff, for someone who's like feeling a bit, why? if someone's feeling a bit overwhelmed with that sort of lack of why would people care about me and why would people care about what I say?
Oh, well, you're a veteran. I'll just give the easy answer is you're a veteran. Being a veteran is a very serious label. And the fact that you're a veteran gives you that entitlement to have a voice, as far as I'm concerned.
Mate, I love that. One of the things,
And just adding to that, if someone doesn't agree with you, I can't say it on a live stream, they can eat you know what.
Yeah, fair enough. The good old EAD. One of the things I'm super passionate about, and for some reason I've been constrained in sharing it because maybe I've just been a bit risk adverse. Is
don't be risk adverse.
Is Indigenous procurement versus veteran procurement. Okay, I spoke to someone from New South Wales government the other day, and there was a couple of statements, right? And one of the statements was, for every job under, I believe it's $250,000, an Indigenous business must be have first preference, and for any job over 7.5 million, an Indigenous business must be considered, right? And I said to the guy there, and I'm like, I have no intentions of competing or replacing with Indigenous procurement, but why can't we stand next to Indigenous procurement?
I agree. Well, a good example is Pride Month. So, granted, Pride Month has been really diminished under Trump, but a good example is, we die and get beaten up for our country. We get a whole day. Pride gets a whole month, right?
Yeah.
And that's a broader, and this is a broader, without sounding like Jordan Peterson or anything like that, right? Or, going full Joe Rogan here or Elon Musk. And this comes down to the problems of society. It's like DEI, right? The whole thing, diversity, equity, inclusion, which was just, it's all being thrown out, right? And now I'm going to say two things here. I am all for lifting up Indigenous people. I've done Christian reach out to Indigenous people. I think I got a lot of Indigenous friends and clients. Supporting Indigenous communities is one thing, but when you start saying we're only going to give jobs to people from this race or ethnicity, you're walking down a very, very slippery slope, right? Very slippery slope. And I think it's a bit like the welcome to country. Why have welcome to countries become so unpopular? So again, you're having all this whole situation. So it's an interesting political discussion. I couldn't agree with you more. But when you have leftist woke governments, they're always going to push that racial agenda. They're not going to really support veterans that much.
Yeah, and one of the things that is veterans are different for one simple reason. All of the other DEI components are something you're born into, or you believe, or it's your sexuality or gender, or it's skin color, whatever. That stuff aside, us as a community, we are only bounded together because we served, and we served the community in the country. So that's where my little zealotness around representing this community, mate.
Yeah. And that's why, just jumping in there, and I'm quite up to date with the culture wars, right? This is why because what happens is leftists hate us so much. So leftists hate veterans for a lot of reasons, right? If you are a veteran, you are naturally right wing to some level, right? You have to be, right? Got an Australian flag behind you. There you go, right? Yeah. Right. Now,
it's funny. It's just like Australian flag. For some people, it can be like, I put it there not only as a point of self pride.
But you're a right winger. You're a right winger. Of course you are.
Well, the fact that I fly a flag, is it antagonistic to some people now?
Well, yeah, because if you're a flag burning leftist who hates Australia, it's antagonistic, right? Yeah. So what I mean is that the thing is, right, is that a lot of leftists hate veterans, and don't worry, we hate you back. It's all good, right? Because there's two reasons why they hate us. Is number one is we have a totally different value system. And also, too, because we're veterans, we're in a way a protected class as well. You know what I mean? So, for example, and I'm not saying this badly, whenever a veteran acts out or does something bad or gets into a drunk or a brawl, the police will try and let them off. Like, veterans will always get looked after to some point by emergency services, right?
Yeah.
And, it's quite sad. It's really sad that the leftist governments have really let veterans slide and really just push DEI and other groups. But the good news is you've got Trump. I think it's Pete Hegseth. You've got that really good looking, was it military, like chief of staff, I think they call it in America, chief of military staff, something like that.
He's like the defense minister, I think.
Yeah, defense minister. Thank you. Yeah, American system, I have no idea. A little bit. But what it is that, thank God, you've got a huge global realignment leaning right, supporting veterans. But yeah, leftists, the thing that blows me away is when veterans vote for Labor or vote left, it's like, what the hell's wrong with you? You know, you're voting for people who completely hate you.
It's funny. I was at a public forum with the current Minister for Veteran Affairs about 6 months ago. And it was a public forum. Anyone got any questions for the minister? And I was sitting on a council for veteran employment, all this kind of stuff. And I basically said to him, Minister, do you see a future where veteran-owned businesses can stand alongside Indigenous procurement? Indigenous?
No way.
And do you know what he said to me? It was quite a little bit
shocking.
You're
You're a racist, Pete, and you should go jump in a cold swimming pool. No.
Well, the first thing he said was, what, do you guys expect special treatment?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I was a little bit taken back by that answer.
Yeah, because he hates you. You got to remember, here's the thing, right? Labor and Greens hate veterans. They do. Like, the thing is, Anzac Day is a very good example. They do Anzac Day because they have to. They don't do it because they want to, right? So the thing that blows me away is when veterans or police vote Labor or Greens. It's like, oh God, what the hell are you doing? You're just shooting yourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
Crazy. But yeah, no, you got to remember, the Labor government doesn't like us. They just tolerate us is all they do.
Excuse me.
That's right.
Mate, what I'd like to do, and I'm very conscious of your time and appreciate you're joining us and stepping out from the gym.
Tell me. I have to. I used to be a fit, good-looking veteran. Then I became a fat veteran, and that's not my style. I want to be a fit, good-looking veteran again. Being fat's not my style, Pete.
You are preaching to the converted there. There's a reason that this camera only sits, from chest down. If I sort of puff out a little bit, looks all right. But as long as I don't stand up, mate.
30 days at the gym, you'll be feeling wonderful. 30 days at the gym.
I'm 50 in 50 days. So there you go.
Congratulations, man. You should join the gym today and give yourself a 50-year-old birthday of a nice gym tone body is what you should do.
I've actually, one of the things I do enjoy every morning is I enjoy treadmill time in the morning. I don't know if it's the first time in my life, and I'm actually at this stage now where golf and walking are like exercise now. I'm just like, it's almost a little bit tragic, but that I've hit that point. But anyway, I love it.
Yeah, no. One thing I do say to veterans is, don't be a fat veteran like me. Look after yourself. I got really fat there for a while,
and especially if you're going to be bald, you may as well be buff.
Yeah, you got to be. So I want to go full. You can either be Jason Statham or George Costanza. You pick the stream you want to go.
Okay, I think that's fair.
I want Jason Statham. I want to go Bruce Willis, Jason Statham, The Rock. I don't want George Costanza. You can have your George Costanza. I don't want it.
And what I'm going to do, mate, let's call it a wrap there, because I think I'd love maybe in a couple of months to get you back and, once I learn more about you and what you do and get more involved in your work. Ed, can you just refresh for people that want to join your journey, join your community? Obviously, we'll put all of the LinkedIn, links into the show notes and that. Tell us a little bit about the work you've got going on in the right now and into the future.
Oh, yeah, cool. So the best way to get started with us is come to one of our free events. We run free business networking Zooms every week. We also run face-to-face monthly meetups in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and Canberra. So the best way to learn about them is if you go to connect with me on LinkedIn or go to our meetup group, you can book into them there, but just message me if you've got any questions. Please connect with me. And also too, if you're interested in taking off on LinkedIn or joining our high-value business community, we've got a great program there as well. The best place to get started is come to our free events, and we'll take it from there. My objectives are really right now, we've got our business in place. We're just busy scaling and reaching more people. So every day I speak to at least 20 new people every day, and it's been great.
And that's all basically organic from now that you've created the size of this network.
Yeah,
and
all organic.
An audience.
Organic.
Yeah. Just before we wrap up,
yep.
The decision point around, I just want to unpack LinkedIn paid ads, for example, because it's something I'm super interested in. The reputation of LinkedIn paid ads that I have is high cost per conversion. And, like if you're going on Facebook and that, it is, much lower to get your clicked contacts, but
not as low as it used to be. Like Facebook is cranking very quickly. So yeah, it's all in all fairness. So on LinkedIn, right? cost per click compared to Facebook is way more than LinkedIn, but the actual lead value is way higher on LinkedIn. But I will say this to anyone watching, only do LinkedIn paid ads if you can afford $1,000 a month and it takes 3 to 6 months to get going.
Well, you mentioned it before that one LinkedIn contact is worth 5 to 10 other socials anyway. So that's straight extrapolation, which probably just should refer across to your ad spend.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's interesting. I know we're finishing up, but very quick, funny story. So one of our really good friends from LinkedIn, she's one of our managers, Tori Benzie. I did this poll on LinkedIn and I'm actually going to redo it. So I asked this question, and I actually asked the question, would you rather 100,000 Facebook followers or 1,000 LinkedIn followers? And 95% plus of the audience said, give me the I'd rather have 1,000 LinkedIn followers over 100,000 Facebook followers. Now, a good retort to that would be, Ed, you're asking that on LinkedIn. Now, our friend Tori, she actually went to Dubai to speak at a conference in front of over 1,000 people, a mixture of all influencers from Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, everything, right? X and all that, right? And she was, credit to her, she actually put me up on screen and actually showed my poll results. And she actually did a poll of the room. She goes, put up your hands if you'd much rather 1,000 LinkedIn followers or 100,000 Facebook followers. And majority, pretty much almost all the room said, I'll take the 1,000 LinkedIn, because seasoned influencers know the value of they'll make more money out of 1,000 LinkedIn followers than they will 100,000 Facebookers.
Mm-hmm. Ed, mate, I really appreciate your time and come along and sharing today. It's been, look, I'm on the path. Let's see how long it takes me to get to 100,000.
If I can jump in there, right? It's not about the number of people; it's about the quality.
Yeah.
And so to be honest, even if you don't get to 100,000, I got a question for you. Would you much rather 10,000 high value people or 100,000 losers?
Look, absolutely. But it's also, back to that Simon Sinek thing, is you want to work with people that believe what you believe, not just with everybody. So
Absolutely.
You're right. And for me, as I want to, first of all, uplift the Australian veteran community by sharing lighthouse stories such as yourself. There's a big global audience out there as well. We know that there's over 3 million veteran-owned businesses around the world.
Yeah.
Totally. I love it. The best thing about me doing this is it's very gratuitous. It's very selfish because I get to learn, even though it's telling your story. I really appreciate you coming along today.
It's a pleasure. Pete, you're doing a great job. Appreciate what you're doing for our veterans. I want to say to any veterans watching, we absolutely love you. So there we go. Love veterans. We all need to stick together in these crazy times, Pete.
Brilliant. Thank you, mate. You take care. We love you too. Catch you later on.
Awesome.
Hello there. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Military Mindset for Business pod. We'd love you to help us. And the best way you could do that is give us the old triple bang. The triple bang is click, like, share. All right. If you're listening on YouTube, we'd love you to comment. If you like what we say, let us know. If you don't like what we say, tell us why. We'd love to get you involved and get you into the story as well. If you're a military member, if you're serving or you're out and you're passionate about business, go to veteranbc.com. That's veteranbravocharlie.com, and come and learn about a business community that is here to support your journey. So my name's Pete Liston. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you next week.